Hello, welcome to my second video on how to operate the scoreboard at the Hopkins Pavilion. I'm calling this the October 2014 edition since we just got a new scoreboard and controller. For those of you who watched my previous video, I promise that this one will be shorter and it won't put you to sleep like the last one. With that being said, let's get to it. The first thing you will notice when you walk into the rink is that now we have two scoreboards, whereas before we only had one. The scoreboard on the north end of the rink is the main scoreboard, while the one on the south end can be thought of as a repeater of selected information from the main scoreboard. The main scoreboard has displays for game time, period information, home score, guest score, and penalty clocks, 2 for each team. The smaller scoreboard has displays for game time, period information, home score, guest score, and these things. You might be guessing that they indicate a power play. That would be a logical guess, but that's not correct. Each letter P indicates a penalty, so according to this display, each team has 2 penalties. As a note, when the time in a penalty runs out, the corresponding letter P will disappear. Now here is the new controller. It is made by the same company that produced our last controller and scoreboard. It is similar to the previous one, however there are differences. This controller has the buttons placed in a logical order. Starting from left and moving to the right, we see that buttons with a gray background control items related to clock and scoreboard operations, including a number pad. The buttons with a green background relate to the home team information, while the buttons with a blue background relate to guest team information. The controller also has a handheld remote. The flashing green light on the remote indicates that it is being powered. The remote has one switch and one button. The switch starts and stops the clock. While pushing the button sounds the horn. When you arrive at the rink, if the scoreboard is powered off, you will need to turn it on. The power switch is located on the right-hand side of the controller. The controller communicates with the scoreboards wirelessly, so when you turn on this power switch, you will also be powering up the controller and both scoreboards. There may be a slight delay before the scoreboards light up. That's normal. Now, if you arrive at the rink and find the scoreboard looks something like this, you got your work cut out for you. Well, I'm just kidding. There are 2 ways to get the scoreboard ready for your game. The first method involves doing the following steps. Or you can use the easier way, which is to press the New Game or Sport button, then push Yes. That's it. This is what the scoreboard will look like after doing that. Once again, to reset the scoreboard and the controller, press the New Game or Sport button, then push Yes. Believe it or not, turning off the controller, then turning it back on, will not clear the scoreboard. The controller retains the information from when it was turned off and displays that information again when the controller is powered back on. We have set up the scoreboard's default to the pictured settings because this is how it should be set up at the beginning of a game. You will notice that the scores are at 0, the period is set to 1, and the clock is set at 5 minutes for the 5-minute warm-up period. To set the time on the clock, push the Set button, then the Time button. I'm going to pause the video to point out a few things here. First of all, you will notice that on the display you see 2 capital M's, a colon, 2 capital S's, a period, followed by a small s. The M's stand for minutes, the S's stand for seconds, and the small s stands for tenths of a second. At this point, when we enter numbers, they will start to fill in these fields from left to right. To post 5 minutes on the scoreboard, you would press the number 0 followed by the number 5, then the yes button, just like this. And to set the period, push set, period, and the number 1 in this case. That's it. When it comes to setting the clocks, there's a common mistake to try and avoid. When entering numbers in the minute or seconds area, you should always use 2 number keys. For example, if you are setting 15 minutes, push the number 1, then 5. And if you're entering 5 minutes, press the number 0, then the number 5. If you only enter one number, in this case the number 5, this is what will happen. I'm pressing set, time, 5, then yes. The result is 50 minutes posted on the clock, not the desired 5 minutes. Remember, always use 2 digits when setting the clock. After a team scores, posting that change is pretty easy. I will show you how to credit the home team with a goal. Start off by pressing the home score button. Note, in the display window it shows the current score of 0 with a plus sign. What the controller is asking you to do is enter the numeric value that you would like to add to the current score. Since a goal counts as 1 point, press the number 1 key to add 1 point to the current score of 0. Then press the yes button. Here is how it looks on the controller and the scoreboard. Now, let's say that we credited the wrong team with a goal. In this case, it was the visiting team that scored. Now, don't worry, there is a way to manually set the score to any numeric value. You simply push set, then home score, then the number 0. Now, for everyone's favorite topic, penalty management. Alright, let's start off with a brief recap of penalty times for different levels. Penalty time is actually dictated by the length of the periods. For games where the period time is 15 minutes or greater, a minor penalty is 2 minutes in duration. For games where the period length is less than 15 minutes, the duration for a minor penalty is 1 minute and 30 seconds. The duration for a major penalty at all levels is 5 minutes. First, I'll cover how to enter a penalty. In this example, I will enter a penalty of 1.5 minutes to the home team. After stopping the clock and putting down the remote, you press the New Minor button under the Home Team column, the one with the green background. I will freeze the video here so you can read the display. The controller is asking you for the offending player's jersey number. Here again, always use 2 digits when entering a player's jersey number. In this example, the player's jersey number is 14, so the next entry will be the number 1 followed by the number 4. Now let's start the video again so you can see that entry. The controller accepts the number and automatically moves on to the next bit of information it wants to know. That is the duration of the penalty. In this example, we want to enter 1 minute and 30 seconds. To make that entry, we need to push the number 0, then 1, then 3, then 0. Well, let's start the video again so you can see how that goes. The display is now showing you the following information. The letter H indicates the home team. If the penalty was against the guest team, it would show a letter G here. The number 1 indicates that this is the first penalty assigned to the home team at the moment. The number 14 is the player's jersey number, and the 0130 indicates the amount of time in the penalty. This is what will be displayed on the scoreboard, just like you see here. Good job! You just assigned a penalty. Now that wasn't tough, was it? Now let's cover how to delete a penalty. The most common scenario you will encounter that requires deleting a penalty is when a team on the power play scores a goal. In this example, the home team has one player serving a minor penalty when the guest team scores a goal. The player who is serving the penalty gets to come out of the penalty box since the other team scored. We now need to remove the penalty from the scoreboard. To delete the displayed penalty, you will press the View Penalty button in the Home Team column. As you can see, this displays the penalty on the controller. With the correct penalty displayed in the control window, simply press the Clear Penalty button. That's it. Don't worry that the controller display has not automatically switched back to something else. As soon as you press the switch on the remote to start the clock running again, it'll work just fine. Now I will cover what to do when you have a penalty that begins in one period and ends in another period, or as I call it, a carryover penalty. As you can see on the scoreboard here, the period will end before the time on the penalty runs out. In fact, when the period ends, there will still be 1 minute remaining in this player's penalty. Since we run a 1-minute clock between periods, if we were to set the main clock's time to 1 minute and started it, the penalty time would also run down during the intermission. To keep this from happening, the way I want everyone to set up every intermission, whether there's a penalty or not, is to use the timeout timer. This is actually easier than setting the main clock. To activate the timeout timer, all you have to do is press the timeout timer button, and yes, you don't even need to start the countdown with the remote. Pressing yes starts the countdown. Now, for those of you who have operated scoreboards in the past, you have seen and used this button. On other controllers, including our last controller, this button performed the desired function for what I had just talked about. However, on this new controller, it does not work. Trust me, don't use this button. In fact, I'm going to leave this photo up for a few more seconds just to make my point. The proper way to set up the 1-minute intermission is to press the timeout timer button, then yes. Do this for all intermissions, whether there's a penalty or not, please. I told you this video would be shorter and less boring. We're almost done. There are just a few more quick points that I want to stress. Number 1, the horn is your best friend. If you need more time before the refs drop the puck, give the horn button a quick tap. Remember, it's located right there under your thumb. Number 2, always use 2 digits when entering numerical values. And number 3, always use the timeout timer method for each and every intermission, whether there's a penalty or not. I will end this video with some text that contains some important information pertaining to the scoreboard operator. Thanks for your time.